Hi everyone. How are you? Tired? Sleepy? No? Okay, my name is Jovan Vidic. I'm coming from Serbia, and today I want to maybe challenge some assumptions. We had a great keynote this morning, and I think that my presentation would be, well, just to continue and to build something on it. And since, yeah, just a bit about me. So I have a background in software development, but I also work in a lot of different things. So agile coaching, I had a role as Scrum Master, also that management 3.0 stuff. Who has been at workshop you saw just? Oh, sorry. Oh, it needs to be too close to my mouth, but yeah, okay. And since most of you are project managers, I have a first question for you. And this is, do you know this picture? Why was this project doomed to failure? There is one reason why this project couldn't be successful ever. Yeah, something like that. So what customer really wanted and how the customer described was different. Whatever you do after that, it will be failure. Not because you did, well, all those things that were wrong, but because customer didn't express himself in a way how he should. And that is the problem with human beings. We are not always able to express ourselves in a way that others can understand us. I'll just briefly go through the history of project management, and there is a reason for that. Do you know facts like this? So that, for example, at the beginning of last century, we have Gantt charts. Then after World War II, we have waterfall, then PMI, then Prince2, then all that stuff. And think about this for a moment. Time in a history when all those practices appear is time when communication was very slow. How much time did you need in 1960s or 1970s to communicate to someone, to reach another part of the world? All that stuff. So people were creating those methodologies and those approaches at that time. And now we have internet. We can fly wherever we want. And it's a different situation. Information doesn't have such a big value. Integration has. And the problem in human history was that we were trying to find one tool to rule them all. We were trying to create one body of knowledge, one book for project management, one methodology, one hierarchical organization for everyone. But that doesn't work well in a complex world. That's the problem. And if you still don't trust me, I will give you a few examples. How many of you did read this book? Read this book? Cool. So for those of you who didn't, I would recommend this. It's a book by Daniel Kahneman. He got a Nobel Prize for this, for behavior economy. They did a number of experiments about how human brain works, how people make decisions, and basically what they concluded, and this is just how they described. So every person has two ways of thinking, or how they describe it's two systems. First one is emotional, habitual, and slow. And second is rational, logical, and lazy. And I will show you this. What is the first thing that you think about when you see this? 4. It's a habit. What about this? Was it, Jovan, come on, it's 5 p.m. So your logical system has some kind of resistance to do this, even though everybody can do that. And this is how we think. And I will just give you a few more things, just to have a feeling how human beings think and how is that influencing decisions. So first one, I know it's not the best, but can you count? What's the problem? Yeah. It's like this. Your brain is tricking you all the time, so you are expecting yellow color here. What's the mistake? Just think about similar things happen in the meetings. Let's do more. What do you see? Two people kissing. Two persons kissing, yeah. Can you count how many circles do you see here? You know this one. Yeah. What about now? For those of you who couldn't. It's the same picture. And sometimes things are more simpler than you expect. It's not over more complicated or more complex. It's again, how much time do we need to see things and how much time do we need to process things? And I hope that we'll have sound now. We'll try, because it's not only about pictures.
So what you'll hear is a sentence, a spoken sentence, that's been transformed by a computer to sound like gibberish. So, any idea what they said?
No.
Okay. You can hear it one more time. Okay, now we'll hear the real sentence.
The Constitution Center is at the next stop.
Does it make sense that time?
Yeah, wait, was that the same?
It was the exact same sentence that you heard the first.
Okay, so I think that you got the point. Brain is wired to make all decisions based on things that you know from previous experience. This is why this is happening. Okay, next one. Could you look to the girl to the on the left side, on the right side, and tell me in which direction this girl is moving? Yeah, but it's not different. It's always the same. This is what your brain is doing. Look at this black dot. Did you see colors? Yeah. Yeah, it's not best resolution, but basically what's happening when human beings are thinking is that you need time from when you see something until your logical brain realizes what's happening. This is typical example of fast and slow thinking. So you saw colors just because your brain needed some time. And just imagine what happens on the meetings. Well, basically it's something like this. Heart is that emotional brain, and this is rational brain. And we always have problems. And I have more things to prove there. There is something what is called cognitive biases. Basically, it's judgment under uncertainty. And here is the first one. It's called anchoring bias. Basically, what Kahneman and Tversky did when they wrote this book, they did experiment. Everybody would say last 2 digits of their social security number. Then they would ask them to offer some money for a bottle of wine. People who had lower number would say 30. People who would have higher, like 99, would say 80. And that is anchoring. When you are judging or relying commonly on first piece of information that you had. And think about all the meetings that you attended. When someone says something, do you anchor to that information, or you try different things and different perspectives? This is proven by experiments. People have tendency to do this. One more, bandwagon effect. It's pretty common in Serbia, so you always have one leader and everybody is following him. I'm not sure, is it here the same? But basically, people have tendency to follow someone who they like or who they appreciate, whatever that is, without questioning that decision. One more, outcome bias. Basically, we are evaluating decision based on the facts that we know after something that happened. And that can be very wrong in situation where you need to make decision early. It's too late to wait to know what are the outcomes. Sometimes you need to get that information earlier. This is all proven by experiments. One more, it's recency bias. And I think especially you can see that in software development, because developers goes home, tries new technology, and then he comes to work and says, okay, I want to do this, this is super cool. And it's happening over and over and over again. So we see those things, they are proven by experiments, and we need to live in a world like this. So my question is, can we survive in a world like this with projects with fixed price, fixed scope, fixed budget, or whatever they are, or we need to redefine them? This is one of the solutions. But unfortunately, we cannot do that. And then what happened? So basically, people tried with something what's called Agile and Scrum and all those super cool words. Then they created certifications. And then everybody's claiming now that, yeah, if you start doing Scrum, it will be super cool. But what's the problem then? You can go to that 2 days course, you can get your certification, but what next? You will come back to your team and you will have something like this. So on a paper, you are a perfect team, but how you should work in that team, well, this is one of the reasons why Scrum fails. Then you can read books. So nobody wrote this, but this is one of the things. You have silent agreements in your team and in your company. And you also have arbitrary forecasts. People tend to do that. You cannot prevent that by imposing some things on them. You should work differently. And basically in software development, it's always like this. We always wait for opportunity to build things from beginning, and we always make some shitty product at the end. Not you, but other guys who are not in this room. So you're building cool products. So what can we do? Well, there is something, I'm not sure how much do you know about it. It's called complexity science and complexity thinking. And basically, people through the history try to find different models. What influenced creation of complexity science was something what's called systems thinking. And those guys tried to create mathematical models to describe things. But then we learned that we cannot always create mathematical models. There is also some input from cybernetics, artificial intelligence, complex adaptive systems, a lot of things. I will not bother you with the history, but just for you to know, there is a history of complexity sciences and complexity thinking. And when someone asks you what is complexity, you can answer something like this. So it is more way of thinking than mathematical model. Thinking about complexity can help you to decide how are you going to react in some situation. And what needs to happen to have a complex system? So first thing, you need to have large number of interacting elements. And because of all those reasons that you saw, whenever you have a group of people or a team or several teams who needs to make decision, think about those cognitive biases and all those things that are influencing how people think. You also need to have nonlinearity, and you need to have dynamic system. But basically, I would say whenever you have a group of people who needs to decide something, you have complexity. If you add software, if you add hardware, if you add more and more things, things are becoming more and more complex. And there is actually one framework. It's called Kanban. This is Welsh word, so it's not pronounced in the same way. How would you pronounce that in English? How many of you have heard about this? Cool. So Kanban is a framework which you can use for decision making, to make decisions in your company on projects. But what's important is that in this case, in complexity, it's not typical that 2x2 consultancy matrix. It's different. Kanban is helping you to make decisions between 3 types of systems. It's order, complex, and chaotic. And for ordered system, we have 2 types. It's obvious and complicated. I will explain more what that means. Then we have complex and we have chaotic. One more thing, what is special about Kanban is that you have disorder. And that is a situation where you don't know where you are. So first thing, what is the simple system? And this can help you. Cause and effect is obvious. You can find a relationship between cause and effect. Then you know that you work in a simple system. And how are you going to recognize that you are in simple system? So you have repeating patterns, you have clear cause and effect, and you have fact-based management. If I need a pen, I can ask Valeria, please give me a pen. We don't need to discuss this. In this situation, I can just tell her what to do. In Kanban terms, is sense, categorize, response. So I sense that I need a pen, then I categorize. I need to tell someone to get me that, and I just respond. I just act. So in simple systems, traditional approach can work because you have clear cause and clear effect. What is danger for leaders? And you as project managers are leaders. In simple system, complacency and comfort. People have tendency to get into their comfort zone. desire to make complex things simple. This is what your brain does. Because, you know, if you remember those large numbers, you didn't calculate that. This is what brain does. And over-reliance on best practice. So in simple systems, we usually apply something what's called best practice. And best practices work there to some extent. And then they don't work anymore. In complicated systems, we have what is called known unknowns. You don't know how to do something, but there is an expert who can help you. And this is a situation with this Formula One, so probably no one in this room doesn't know how to do this, but you can find some experts who can do it. What's specific about this system is that you need experts, that cause and effect are not immediately apparent to everyone. So it's not easy for you to immediately know this cause will have this effect. And it's facts-based, similar to simple, but there is more than one solution. What do you need then as a leader? You need to sense, analyze, and respond. So in previous step, it was sense, categorize, and respond. In this step, it's not enough. You need a panel of experts. You need to listen conflicting advices. So I need to listen advice from several people in order to make a good decision. But still, it's ordered system. Still, it's knowable. Problem can be with experts. So if you need some approach, you can have someone who is expert for Lean, someone who is expert for Scrum, Kanban, PMI, whatever that is. Will they be willing to, let's say, withdraw their expert opinion just because it's good for that company? Or they will continue to be experts? Whenever you hear things like scaled agile framework or stuff like that, you will see that people are trying to solve complex problems with complicated and simple frameworks. That's the problem. And you can go into that state of analysis paralysis, that you are analyzing too much, and that views of people who are not expert are excluded. So what's with all that people, if you create a panel of experts, what with all those people from your company? Maybe they know something what those experts don't know. So people have tendency always to make complex things less complex or complicated or simple. Be aware of that. Canevin is about making sense and about sense making. So first thing is sense. And then we come to complex systems. Do you know what that is? It's SpaceX program. So basically what they are trying to do is to create a rocket which you will be able to use several times when you are trying to travel to space. This is actually what they succeeded to do. And this is complex. When they started to do this, there was no simple and obvious solution. They needed to experiment. They needed to do a lot of things there. So what does it mean when you are in complex system? You need creative and innovative solutions. You have something what is called unknowable unknowns. You don't have one person who can solve all your problems. You need a team, and usually that's the reason why we have teams. We have teams to solve complex problems. There is no such thing what one person can do. If you are developing some software product, you will need someone who knows UI, UX, who knows front-end technologies, who knows how to work with databases, who knows how to organize people. That is complex system. And in complex system, you as a leader should work differently. You should probe, sense, and respond. And that is big difference. In two previous steps was sense and then do something. But now it's probe. Now it's run experiments, because there is no one source of truth, and there is no obvious solution. And you should use methods that help to generate ideas. Can you say like one method that can be used in complex environments? Do you know one? Lean startup, for example. Lean startup is used to manage projects, but those are not projects, but to work in very, very complex environment, because you run experiment and you see what to do next, and you can pivot. What's the problem with complex? People have tendency to go back to that command and control mode, because it's safe, because it's to some extent known. but it is not best thing to manage complexity. People try to look for effects rather to run experiments. In complex environment, it's not all about numbers. And people have tendency to look for numbers. And people have desire to cut corners or to find easily knowable solution. And you have chaotic domain. And what's important for chaos is that it's temporary. In chaos, you don't have constraints. And very often when you are in a situation like this, someone will come and introduce new constraints. So that's the thing. That's why chaos is temporary. Fire can be one of the examples, but there is also, for example, if your production system is down. So then it's chaos, and then you act differently. In chaotic systems, you need to make many decisions, and you don't have enough time. So daily work, probably. I hope not, but. And you have high tension. And if you are a leader in chaotic environment, what can you do? You can act, sense, and respond. In this situation, you don't run experiments. You are not sensing, you are acting, because you need to act now. If your system is down, first thing what you are going to say, people, fix the problem. And then we will do whatever is needed not to have that again. But first thing is fix the problem. And you need clear and direct communication. What's the problem with chaotic systems is you need to apply command and control approach, but what will happen if you do that for a long time? If you push your people to work overtime for 4 weeks, that is not anymore chaos. And you are still pushing them. At some point of time, they'll be probably finishing burnout or something like that. And in chaos, it can happen that you miss opportunity for innovation, even though you have it. One more thing regarding Kanban is that if you don't know where you are, then first thing that you should know is to figure out where you are. So don't have a tendency to look at things who look simple as a simple things. Try to be sure that that is simple. Or check, is it complex, complicated, what it is. Another thing about Kanban, and well, you can read a lot about it, I don't have enough time to explain you everything, but is that you have a border between simple and chaotic domain. And it can easily happen for the leaders that they are in chaos, but they think they are in simple domain, and that they are trying to apply best practices. And that is the problem. In chaotic and complex domains, best practices are not working or are not effective enough. So this is where you need to be careful. And this is all okay. So I explained the model, you can read about it, but what can you do on a daily basis? So you probably work in software development, or if not, this works very well in software development. First thing that you should do is use something what's called scientific method. This is not scientific management, it's something completely different. When you approach to things by running experiments, you will have faster feedback loop. If you have a client who doesn't want to do that, show him all previous stuff and try to be honest. Try to explain to your client what is going to happen if you manage complex projects in a way to apply best practices or whatever that is. And if you get an agreement, then run experiments. Short experience, and always say what will happen if what is our hypothesis is true, and what will happen if not. Usually, if not, you will run another experiment. There is also one big difference between, let's say, traditional approach to projects and managing complex projects, and that is facilitation. So if you don't have obvious solution, and if you need groups of people to solve that, how are you going to do this? And one of the things is that you can facilitate conversation. Business as usual would be, we have a new topic, we discuss about things, and then your boss comes and tells, okay, you're playing enough, make decision now. And that is not good for complex environments. What should happen actually when you are facilitating brainstorming is that you have the divergent zone, so people discuss, people exchange opinions, and then the pain comes. Then you have that grown zone. This is where conflicts are happening. This is the point of time when people have tendency to give up. But this is most important thing in brainstorming process. Because if you go through this on a good way and you have a good facilitator, then you will converge and you will go towards solution. So brainstorming is not about throwing all ideas and judging them. Brainstorming is going through whole process, and you need skilled facilitator for that. And that is one of the roles that you as a project managers can have and can do in a really, really good way in future. So not only to manage people, but to facilitate conversations. What else do you need? Well, you need to change way of thinking. It's not important, is this glass half full or half empty? It's important why it is twice bigger than it is now. You need that critical thinking. So you need to ask why. You need to ask what is going to happen if we don't do this. In complex environment and complex projects, it's not enough to say yes, or as I learned, da. So you need to think differently. You need to criticize ideas, not people, ideas. And there is also one initiative, and I think that you should be aware of it. This is from CFO.com, so I would say well-known site, is that budgeting and thinking about budgets in today's world is slow thinking. We need to be much faster. And this guy says here, yesterday's budgets are too slow for today's volatile world. Here is how to pick up planning pace. So basically, people who are in finance are thinking that we cannot plan anymore even year from now. It is too slow. And here is one of the examples. How can you use Kanban when you are having project? So if you don't know what is going to be outcome, if it is uncertain, then you run experiment. If it is good, then you can go to analysis or to build phase. Just remember, there is no like simple cause and effect. Maybe it's going to be analysis, maybe it's going to be build, but maybe if you see that those experiments are not giving you results that you want, maybe you will pivot. And that is lean startup idea. But that can be applied to daily project work or to daily work. If one idea doesn't work, and if you can validate that idea at shortest possible amount of time, you'll be able to react and maybe to pivot. If you got some good results from that analysis phase, from that experiment phase, you will go to analysis. And when you analyze stuff, you can decide, okay, result of analysis is good. This is complicated domain. Go to build phase. Or result of analysis is bad. Go again to experiment phase. Because it doesn't make sense if you have some proof that you're building wrong thing to continue. And in build phase, we can come to those best practices. Because we went through everything. We removed uncertainty, at least to some extent, to extent where we can manage. And now it's easy to manage. And you need a mind shift in terms of thinking in projects. It's not about how much it costs. It's about how much is it worth. Because then you are changing the story. There is a cool guy called Jovan who is writing a book about no projects. This is his sentence. Basically, what he's trying to say is, it's not about how many people do you have in your team and how much that will cost. Take a look, for example, at Airbnb. Who could create project plan for their growth? Would it be possible? I think that they were growing 800% in a year. So that is complex environment. If you want to learn more about it, I'll give you a lot of resources. You will have this presentation. But I want to leave you with 3 things when you are thinking about complexity in project. First one, do you know what it is? Yeah, black swan. Basically, there was common belief in England until 19th century that all swans are white. And at that point of time, people were writing books knowing that swans are only white. And then people who went to Australia saw black swan. And just imagine what's happening at that point of time. All the books who are talking about white swans are not true anymore. You have something different. In complexity thinking, black swan is high profile, hard to predict, a rare event which can have huge impact. There is a chaos theory who is also talking about that. It's butterfly effect, basically. It's a metaphor for that. And what should you do? Well, the problem, yeah, you will not see this, but the problem is that belief in stationary sustainable outcomes in complex situation leads to blindness. So if you believe that things are less complicated than they are, you will have blind spots. Things are always more complex than they look. And you as a project managers, project leaders, should be first one to notice this. Second thing, any tool, methodology, framework can be misused. This is just simple Lego brick, but just imagine what will happen to this guy. So think about it. It's not about Scrum, it's not about PMI, it's not about Agile, it's not even about Kanban. It's about how do you think about projects? What's your approach? And my last message for you is this. So you can wait, or you can start acting today. And I hope that you are awake. Thank you.
Thank you for the talk, and you said a great phrase about scaled agile frameworks and complex systems. Do you have any advices here, like if
don't scale it. So if you want to work in agile environment, think about values and principles behind Scrum, behind Agile Manifesto. You cannot create one-size-fits-all solution. This is the problem with all those frameworks. And Scaled Agile Framework has some great ideas, but the question is someone capable to create a framework which every single company will be able to apply? Or something is wrong there. So grow that agile spirit. Start with the one team. Start with beliefs and values in the company. I'm sure that next talk will be awesome and that it will be great and that you will listen more about company culture. But it's all about that. How you grow your company, not about some kind of framework.
Thank you.
Hey, my question is about like project during its lifetime can like go from one domain to another, from like complex to complexity, and vice versa. Sometimes to chaos. So, what the time period will you recommend for some kind of re-evaluation, and maybe if there is some triggers to capture that? Come on, guys, we are like in another domain, and we need to change our approach here.
That's a very good question. So this is your job actually. And I think that you should do that all the time. Because if we talk about Kanban, it's sense-making framework. So you need to sense the situation. You need to see, is it really easy to find solution? There is one practice that I like to recommend everyone, and that is playing devil's advocate. So whenever someone is trying to give you a solution, you ask why. Why do you think that's best? What will happen if we don't do that? What will happen if we do something else? And this is open question. There is no yes or no answer. That person will need to think about. And then he is using that logical brain. And then things are starting to move forward. You'll not find easy solution, but things will go forward.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have just a simple question. Basically, when you mentioned that any approach can be viable in chaotic stage of the project, but
sorry, not any. You are acting if you are in chaos.
Yes, but you mentioned that you need to act in any possible paths you can take. And basically, do you believe that Alchemist's razor principle, or the principle of the simplest way is the best way, is true for this kind of situation?
I would not oversimplify chaos. So that is why you have that border between simple domain and chaotic domain. If it is simple, then simple approach and best practice. if it is chaos, then you should act to solve a problem. It's temporary state. And from chaos, you usually go to complex situation, not simple one. So you should be able to find what is the solution for that situation. Not simple solution, but solution.